Hi, my name is John Welty and I write the Ductline control software for Mestech Machinery. In this video, I'd like to demonstrate some of the features available to you on your control system. We're going to begin with an overview of the input and output test monitoring screen. We call this the manual screen, and to get there, we touch the menu button and press the manual screen button from the pop-up menu. First, notice the section labeled coil processor. These are for the first machine after the uncoilers or decoilers. You are seeing the state of the outputs in the colored background, and you are seeing the state of the inputs with the white background. There are some exceptions to this. You'll notice that the crop cut, run bend process, and run snap lock process are all buttons to execute a controlled sequence of outputs. They will be green while the process is running. They will require a confirm action button to be pressed to avoid accidental activation. Now take a look at the beam go up button with the colored background. The background being red means that the output to the valve that makes the coil processor beam go up is off. If the button turns green, then you know the output is on. Look above it at the box with the white background labeled is up. Notice the text being green means that the input is on. When the text turns red, it means that the input is off. We have a proximity sensor that senses the beam position, and when the is up proximity sensor is on, that's showing that the beam is high enough to reach that sensor. So there's a general flow to it. The inputs are located above the respective outputs, except for things like material is present. Those are inputs that are standalone. And these are not just visual indicators. You can also use the manual screens to test valves and motors as long as the machines aren't in run mode. Before testing any outputs, you need to ensure that there's nobody near the machine as you follow these instructions. If you wanted to, for instance, make the beam physically go up, you would need to first make sure that the hydraulics are on, and then press the beam go up button. You will see that it turns green while you are holding it, and that if you were to hold it longer than 3 seconds, it would latch in and stay green. Once it's latched in, you can turn it off by touching it momentarily. If you press the Run Bend Process button with the hydraulics on, and then press the Confirm Action button, you will see the inputs and the outputs changing for the beam and the leaf. Note that not everything can be latched on, but most things can. Note also that when you touch an output button, the valve will energize, or the motor will turn on, only as long as you touch it, unless it latches on after the 3 seconds. So for instance, the notches take time to cut through the material. There's an actual travel time that it takes. So if you're trying to test a notch, if you just touch the button momentarily, it'll start the stroke, but it won't stroke all the way through, and you won't get a complete notch. It's only on while you're touching it. It's off when you let go. When we operate the machine automatically, we use timers for the notches, so we will keep the output on long enough to ensure that we get a full cut. When you touch it, you need to hold it on at least long enough, and so that most things need at least a half a second, and you'll get a feel for it by the sound as you experiment with this. You'll be able to hear when the shear has made a full stroke. You'll be able to hear when the notch has made a full stroke. This screen can also help with troubleshooting. Let's say you put the processor into run mode, and instead of saying waiting for feed initiate down in the status bar, you get nothing. If you come to this manual screen, you will notice that the beam go up button is green, energized, but the corresponding is up input indicator is red or off. This lets you know that either the beam is restricted, or the sensor is out of adjustment, or you have a wiring or an input problem. If it's being told to go up, but it isn't seeing that it is up, think of what might be causing that scenario, either hydraulically or electrically. If you were to go to the diagnostic screen and look at the processor section, you would see that the home state is something other than 10 being idle. This also gives you an idea of what is hung up. The processor is trying to initialize outputs and confirm that everything is ready to go, but it can't confirm that the beam is up. So you could have somebody else run the machine and watch the manual screens to get a feel for how the machine works normally. Then, this screen can help you do some diagnostics when it behaves differently.